Welcome to the Authority File, the podcast where you'll hear conversations with academic librarians, technologists, researchers, and authors whose work is laying the foundation for higher education's future. I'm Bill Mickey, your host and the editorial director at Choice. In this four-part series, which is brought to you with support from Overdrive, I'll be speaking with our guests on everyone's favorite scholarly content delivery format, open access. We examine the current state of open access, including the opportunities and pain points for academic librarians, publishers, and researchers. We also look at the role librarians play in supporting open access initiatives, including how that role will continue to play out. Further, we talk about OA funding and its sustainability and look ahead at some important milestones on the horizon. Joining me on the program are Emily Farrell, Global Commercial Director for Open Research at Taylor & Francis, and Jenny Towns, Open Access Librarian at Emory University. In this third episode, we discuss some of the challenges associated with OA funding and sustainability and why research integrity has become such a flashpoint. I guess we'll stick with you for this, Emily. What are the main challenges to OA funding and sustainability?
It's a really good question. I think I think the biggest thing is that there just are still so many unknowns. So, working out how we do this in a way that's sustainable, that brings all the right sorts of pieces together, considering where the funds and how the funds flow to a researcher, what that looks like on the grant side. So I think that's, because there are a lot of stakeholders and a lot of moving parts, that's contributes to the some of the unknowns and the challenges with funding. I think it is also an important part of it too is for us to consider how we move it to a more equitable place with scaled models, such that again, as we've said before, the such that the burden is less on researchers themselves, and that we can sort of work more at the institutional level, say, or partner with funders in ways that support it. So I think that there are a lot of opportunities there. But again, I think that we're in a time where there's space for interesting experimentation and creativity, and I think that will help to sort of get through some of these challenges of how you actually find the funding.
Right. As a publisher, I'm not coming from a petty kind of perspective, but as a publisher, I mean, is it frustrating sometimes, or to sort of, there's so many stakeholders in the mix here. You've got the researchers, you've got the funders, and you got sort of political angles, where everybody's kind of advocating for what they think OA is and should be, and then as sort of the publisher, who's trying to, as you say, create a business model around this to make it sustainable. Are you trying to stay one step ahead of everybody and sort of anticipate where things are going, or how does that work?
I mean, I would say yes to some degree, but I think that we're all trying to do that, sort of, looking to the future. What will change bring? How can we make this feel less uncertain? I think that we've sort of we hopefully, I would say, coming out of a period, or I'm hoping that we can sort of be in a place where we are thinking about this more collaboratively. I think that the sort of the divisiveness that's proliferated a bit is ultimately not really beneficial for researchers, and it's not really beneficial for any of the stakeholders involved. And it's certainly a complex landscape, but I would also say that that's part of the fun challenge, because really at the core of it, I think we all agree that opening this content, opening access to research, does mean that we have that more broadly people have access to this knowledge and can sort of hopefully make more informed decisions about whether that's on whether you're in a sort of a healthcare context, whether you what it is you're looking for in particular from this specialized knowledge, from this scholarship. So, when there are these sort of more animated discussions and disagreements, I think that, to me, so much of it is really just coming back to that core of it. Like the first question that we when we started talking, when we were talking about why is open access important, that we think about how we make it more possible for more people to get to that knowledge, then the rest, I think we can work out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, that's getting a bit like we can all be friends.
Well, yeah,
right. I mean, that's not to diminish the complexity of it, but certainly, I think sometimes it's important to sort of come at it with, of course, everybody is seeing it from their perspective, and we're all sort of, but I think that's partially why we're all quite invested in making this work better, because we all, I think, agree that that at the center of it is this increase in access to knowledge.
Right. Jenny, anything you want to add?
What Emily said really resonated with me. I think it really comes down to fear of the unknown, and avoiding partnerships where maybe we should have stronger collaborations. For librarians, it's the same. We always feel like we have to stay one step ahead, because the fear is we will be priced out of doing that core part of our jobs, which is providing access. And it's fear that, the opportunity to disseminate research wider and faster may come at a price that the market can't bear. We also, we worry about who is the appropriate party to bear the responsibility of the fiscal side of it, the author, the department, the provost. We worry that moving the paywall from the reader to the author risks the same inequalities that were present before. So a lot of this is, fear of moving the burden of cost, where it's going to end up. And like most things, fear is not an excellent way to live. So I'm really happy to hear, Emily talk about partnerships and collaborations. And it's true, just in this conversation, we've talked about how we're all kind of coming from the same page.
Right.
So I would like to see more of that in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. So let's talk a little bit about research integrity, and Jenny, we can stay with you on this for now. Why has it become such a flashpoint?
I'm not sure I am the best person to ask. I have a few ideas.
Okay.
Paper mills have gotten a lot of press lately. It's really unfortunate. There's some publishers have shut down some of their journals due to paper mills compromising the integrity of their journals. By paper mills, I mean like academic paper mills.
Right.
ChatGPT and other AI instances can mean scary things for research integrity. And also, what kind of, in my opinion, what has kind of pushed this to the forefront is part of the Nelson memo. It's a whole section on research integrity, making metadata publicly available, having all researchers getting a persistent unique identifier, assigning unique identifiers to funding awards. And so the idea is to have all of those things linked together to provide better accountability and increase public trust. But there's a reason why that was part of the Nelson memo.
Exactly. Emily, how about you?
Yeah, it's certainly, I think that there's been an evolution of it where, we've sort of went through a crisis of reproducibility and replicability that, also was tied to some of the pressures we've talked about before, the pressure to publish, the pressures on the job market for academics, how that ties into the sorts of, systems like, promotion and tenure. And so that those pressures to publish in order to get or to secure yourself with a position or with grant funding, I think just has been a part of why things like paper mills have become such a problem. I think at this point, about 50% of the ethics cases we deal with are paper mills. And the difficulty with those is that there are different types. They're very adaptive. We change policies, we change what we're monitoring, and they're paying attention too. So I think that, to some degree, the different types of approaches to research assessment, for instance, like the DORA framework, are ways that we can try to think differently about the pressures that are creating these sorts of issues of integrity, because I think that they will likely continue to exist, but it just requires a rethink, I think, about what the causes are, why research integrity has sort of become such an important issue to address. I don't think it will go away. I think we have to think about how we assess things differently.
Mm-hmm. So I just for those who may not know, can you talk about sort of why paper mills exist? Like what is their, what are they up to? What is their goal?
I mean, in general, it's a way for people to get larger amounts of publication, to get their names on more publications. Often it's fraudulent research, so but it means that you can have a list of publications very quickly in order to get an academic job, perhaps, or secure grant funding, or whatever it is that you're needing, sort of in the next step that you're working as a researcher. So I think that's at the core of it.
Mm-hmm. You just heard from Emily Farrell, Global Commercial Director for Open Research at Taylor & Francis, and Jenny Towns, Open Access Librarian at Emory University. This series is brought to you with support from Overdrive. Join us next week when we look at the ongoing impact of the Nelson Memo, how OA is driving open research, and speculate on the next important milestones on the horizon for open access. As always, underwriting opportunities for the Authority File podcast are directed by Choice's advertising manager, Pam Marino, and all of our episodes are produced and edited by Choice's digital media producer, Sabrina Kofer, with support from digital media assistant, Ashley Roy. That's all for this week. Thanks for joining us.